being here. So good evening, I'm Fire Chief Pabel Troche, and thank you all for taking the time to be here. Tonight's discussion is about Fire Station 27, and it's a very important discussion. I appreciate your interest in learning about the project. Here's my commitment. My commitment is to provide information, listen respectfully, and ensure our community understands the data, the intent, and the impact this station will have on our safety. Your engagement matters, and I'm grateful we can have this conversation together. I'm going to provide you the data, the information, how we got to where we are today, and then at the close of that, and I'll try to be as quick as I can, so you have an opportunity to ask the questions that are on your mind. Hopefully the presentation will provide you some of these answers, and then afterwards we have people in the room that can answer some of these questions. So who's in the room? We have Mayor-elect Mary Robicheaux. Council Member Alan Stells, right here. And Council Member Sarah Beeson should be here. She's supposed to be here tonight. We're also joined by Deputy City Administrator Sharon Izzo. Okay. And we have some staff here, so hopefully we'll provide you the answers that you need. As I go through the presentation, let me start with this. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Fantastic. As I go through the presentation, like I said, I want to be respectful of your time, so it's condensed version. The QR code here, if you put your cameras up and you look at the QR code, it's going to give you the presentation, the PDF. So you can follow along, take it home, and maybe you have questions for later. So that's how you access that PDF, and you can download it. All right, so I'm going to start off with the timeline. Again, remember that this is condensed. This could very easily be hours. I'm trying to condense it in a time frame where you have the ability to ask questions. So in 2022, a gap analysis was conducted by CPSM. It's a company that we hired to do a gap analysis on the fire department. That gap analysis was the gap analysis that was conducted that not only told us that there was disparity in the station location, that's the same gap analysis that led to the Roswell Fire Department transitioning from a part-time fire department to a full-time fire department, which we're entering year 4 in 2026. Based on that gap analysis, the strategic plan was done. Same time, 2022, the strategic plan was done. The strategic plan basically outlined what was provided in the gap analysis. The public safety bond was approved by the voters on that same year. In 2023 was when we first got the bond issuance. We started the initial planning and site evaluation for Station 27. Again, 2022 gap analysis that led into a strategic plan, and then the conversation started. In 2023, we go into the initial planning and site evaluation for Station 27. In 2024, the fire response data analysis was completed using updated call density and road network. I'm going to show you some of that data. I'm not going to take a deep dive into it. It was quite comprehensive, but there was a very comprehensive data analysis that was done. It was presented to Mayor and Council on December 9th of 2024. Council approved design contract for Station 27 at that time. Council approved traffic preemption improvements to support the station relocation. I'll go into a little bit more detail on some of those things in a minute. In 2025, currently, where are we today? We are completing the design work and due diligence for the new fire station. So we are in the process of completing the design work. The design work is not completed yet. Construction timeline has been will be established when the design is finalized. So why are fire stations being relocated? The data showed several existing stations no longer meet modern response times. Modeling showed travel time deficiencies due to geography, traffic, and address density. So what we take a look at, response times is one of the most important critical factors in emergency response. How quickly can we get to the emergency? Seconds count. Travel time is a large part of that. and I'm going to go through a little bit of detail. 911 receives the call. 911 processes that call. That's a processing time. 911 dispatches that call. So from the point that they received it, that they send the unit, that's how long it took them to process it. Once they dispatch that call and we receive it, now we have what we call a turnaround. How long does it take from when we received it to get into the unit and start going? Once the unit starts rolling, till it gets to the scene, it's travel time. If you put all that together, that's how we determine our total response time. A full rebuild is unrealistic and harmful to coverage, and relocation is the practical solution. So here's what that means. If we were to take the City of Roswell, all its square miles, and the 7 existing stations that we have here, we said, wipe the map clean and let's just start from scratch. It's just not feasible. It's not feasible because the accessibility to land where you would put fire stations. So what you do is basically a relocation. What can we do to be the most efficient, effective response within the city that's truly viable? All right, this is a heavy slide. I'm going to do my best to kind of articulate what's up here. And excuse if I, okay. This one, I apologize, I'm going to have to step to the side so I can point at some things, so I want to turn my back to you. But if you look at the top left, so on my left over here, current fire station drive times, peak traffic conditions without preemption. In the data analysis, what we did is we said from station 27, we did this for the entire city, but I'm going to focus on station 27. From station 27, what are the drive times during peak traffic conditions without traffic preemption? Traffic preemption is a technology that we are so fortunate that our leadership has provided us. Traffic preemption is smart traffic preemption that is installed at the lights as well as in our units, that once we receive a call and we turn our lights on to go, it knows we're going and it automatically starts decongesting that direction of travel. Not only does it do that, if we put a signal saying we are turning left or right, it picks up on that and clears it to make sure that we can get through. It's safer for the residents, it's safer for the responders, and equally as important, it gets us to the places we need to go as quickly as possible to effectively provide those services. So that's how traffic preemption works, and that at a base level, it's a little bit more complex with than I explained. Population dot density, we want to know how many people are impacted in that area. That's the dot density. What's the density and exact location? So I'm going to use an example. The density in the area we are in right now versus the density on Cox Road. Two completely different densities that we need to take into consideration. So when I say that the data analysis is deep, is we want to know everything when we make a decision. Address points are the third to the right. How many address points are there? How many addresses? How many rooftops? And the last one, incident demand the last 5 years. And that's super important. So what we do is we say, where are the incidents actually happening? I'm going to provide you an example of that. We're talking about station 27. I'm going to stay specific to that. All the data is going to show, obviously, the station needs to come in order for us to cover the rooftops here. Why? Because right now, if we make a left turn, it doesn't take long, we're in Gwinnett County. So we need to be more centralized where we can get to the rooftops. But let's just say that we move the station in far, thinking, okay, we're more central. But the calls were happening where we came from, we would be defeating the purpose. So what the heat map is providing us, the incident demand, not only tells us you should be here, this is also objectively telling us this is where the calls are happening. Emerging hotspot analysis in GIS detects changes in 911 incident patterns, enabling optimized resource allocation and response. By analyzing where emergency calls are rising, declining, or stabilizing over time, this tool highlights key trends. So not only did we look at facts for that timeline, we also were able to create trends, analytical trends, as to where it was going to continue to happen. On this slide, what you'll see is ISO 2.5 mile ladder service coverage. So this is a ladder truck. And the reason this is important, besides the graphs is going to show you some important information, ISO is basically the rating that we get that provides us, provides the insurance company how they gauge how secure this city is. That's where insurance comes from. So what you'll find is the lower the ISO rating, the better the city is protected. We're currently in ISO 2, and as you can imagine, all the analysis that we are doing, all the action we are taking is to get us to an ISO 1. So currently, I'm going to have to get up and walk around a little bit on this one. So currently, if we take a look at this slide on the top current, and you look at 27 where it's located down here at the bottom, the purple represents the area of coverage that 24 is covering, and then the 27, the other color, that's where we're at. The proposed brings 27 and 24 with a lot more coverage in the city. What we're trying to do is eliminate the gaps. This is for a truck response. Truck response, the ladder truck, which has a very specific role that it plays, is based on a 2.5 mile response radius. And I'll show you the difference between that and an engine. The proposed with automatic aid, and this is another very critical step. All of our neighbors in North Fulton went into an automatic aid agreement. That's a big deal. When an emergency happens, you want the unit that is closest to you to respond. If it's a house fire, a cardiac event, a diabetic event, you want a trained first responder to show up. So we went into an automatic aid agreement. What's the difference between an automatic aid and a mutual aid agreement? A mutual aid agreement requires for us to get on the radio, say, hey, can you help us? Then they have to go, sure, we'll help you. Then they send the call, then a unit comes. That's a lot of time. Automatic aid says they will automatically come to our aid and help us out. Quicker response times, more responders. So proposed with auto aid, you see that there's a tremendous amount of coverage that it's shoring up. Now, it would be a tell to say, what about the gap that's sitting up there by that 63? Well, 63, a neighboring fire station, is providing us automatic aid. In a utopia, what do we want? We want for there to be no blank spots at all on the map. Is that realistic? With millions and millions and millions of dollars, it's possible. But the reality is that most departments, most fire departments in the country are trying to make the best decisions possible with the resources they have to be as efficient without just continuing to grow and expand. So that's what that's highlighting. So about the analysis model. The model uses proven facility optimized approach with a novel fire service data set. We're using the City of Roswell data set. We're not looking at national data from somewhere else. It is specific to our city. Everything that we did was based around historical data, our travel times, our data. So model decided to optimize facilities and locations that improve service to the most addresses in the city. You're going to find in the next slide, I'll give you very specific numbers as to what that looks like. What is the true impact? How many more rooftops are we covering? The model's accuracy was validated against historical RFD data and aligned with the 2021 CPSM gap analysis. So not only did we do the modeling, we did the data analysis, we wanted to make sure it doesn't align with the gap analysis that was conducted, and the answer was yes. The data set was adapted to model the impacts of intelligent traffic preemption system with exceptional accuracy. So here's what exceptional accuracy looks like. The gentleman that did this analysis for us is a brilliant mind. And what he did is he took uphill, downhill, and he actually added, if a truck or an engine is going uphill, it's a different speed, it's a different force that's done by that unit going uphill and downhill. How many stop signs are there? If I have to stop at a stop sign and turn right, there's an impact. So what we did with the data, I don't really know that has been done in many places to the depth that we took it to make sure that we had the most accurate information possible. All right, so current fire station peak traffic conditions. This is where you're directly impacted, and it's very important. To my left, model travel time, performance, peak traffic conditions, which we know that peak traffic conditions are here most of the time. So current locations without traffic preemption, and we do all our data in the 90th percentile. Down there at the very last bullet, the 90th percentile performance is a gold standard. We can do averages lie. 90th percentile is what you want. So 90th percentile is 6 minutes and 56 seconds. Addresses with greater than 4-minute travel time. So once our unit starts rolling to get to you, travel time, greater than 4 minutes, it's 69%, 31,351. As a first responder for almost 3 decades, that has seen a lot. I was talking to you some of you outside about this. That has seen a lot, and as a fire chief, that's a concern. That's 31,351 people that I'm very concerned about. So to be able to bring that number down is an absolute priority from anyone that's been in healthcare or understands. Hold your breath for 30 seconds and see the impact of that. Imagine somebody having a heart attack or a house being on fire. So understand, for me as a fire chief, this scares me. It keeps me up at night. So what is the impact with what we're doing? Again, what you're going to see is the 6 minutes and 56 seconds, and then to the right, 69%, at 31,351. If we were to move the fire station with traffic preemption in the 90th percentile, you're looking at 4 minutes, 48 seconds. That's a reduction of 2 minutes and 8 seconds. I wish I could articulate that impact. In our world, that is staggering number. Importantly, greater than 4 minute travel time, 20,158. That's 64%. So what's the ultimate goal of what we're trying to do here? The ultimate goal of what we're trying to do is go to where people need our aid as quickly as possible and as safe as possible. Traffic preemption and the station relocation give us all those things. And I know I went through this rather quickly because I want to give you your time, and I'll close with this so we can have some questions. One of the things that have come up quite a bit is fire station noise impact test, or just noise in general. So what we did is a non-scientific test, and I'm going to tell you why it's non-scientific. It's non-scientific because we're not scientists, and I can find no national information anywhere impact our fire stations and fire trucks having when it comes to noise. So as we all know, the police department has special detectors where they can tell you how many decibels sound waves are going out and to what degree. So we borrowed that from them, and we went to multiple places within the city to gauge at 50 feet, at 100 feet from a fire station, what is the impact of an engine running, so the truck on in the front, what is the impact when they turn the siren on and start moving. In short, it was marginal 9 to 12 decibels outside. The problem with that is it's such a variant because noise travels different if you put a tree in front of it, if a bus goes by. Very important to note though is this, and we have first responders in the room. We are trained and very aware of how disruptive it can be. Fire engines do not come rolling out of the fire station, lights on, sirens blaring, just because. We're situationally aware. We understand at 2 o'clock in the morning, not a tremendous amount of traffic. There's no reason to do that. So the purpose for lights and sirens are to be able to notify, to let other people know, hey, can you please give us the right of way? Can you please give us the respect of getting to this emergency? And for those of you, so the question doesn't have to be asked, well, the big red truck should already know. Sometimes even the big red truck is not enough for people to move out of the way. So what we do is we're very respectful, we're cognizant of the fact that we don't want to be disruptive. Also remember that traffic preemption has really changed the game for us because traffic preemption already starts decongesting so we can get down there. So we can get out there safely and get people out of the way. So again, the noise impact component, we did do some research, we did do some studies, but I think more important to note is that we understand that it could be disruptive, and our responders are very self-aware of that. And when they turn the lights and sirens on, because by law, to be fair, by law, we do have to activate our lights and sirens when we're running emergency. And from a professional standpoint, you want us to have lights and sirens when you're having the emergency. With that being said, I'm going to go back to the original slide that has the QR code. That way you can take that picture and have that. At this point, I want to open it up for questions because I know that's really what we want to go to. So we have, who's going to, Chief Wolf here with the microphone. So what we're going to do is, and to be patient with us with this, if you have a question, we want everyone to hear the question, and then I'll make sure I give this microphone to the appropriate person that's going to answer the question. Fair? All right, who has a question?
I've seen news stories where data centers, which are louder, a little bit louder than fire stations, have started severely impacting people's health just because of the noise. And I just wanted to clarify too that 10 decibels is twice as loud. It's not like 10% louder, it's twice as loud. So my question is, are we like waiting for there to be some kind of scientific research done on like a long-term scale for it to be proven to I don't know who that an increase in volume at that level already has impacts on people's health?
Sure. We just happen to have.
Thank you so much.
Can I say an expert in that, Sarah?
Councilmember Sarah Beeson. I am widely well versed on data centers. Working on my PhD in city planning, also with a couple of friends in the city of Atlanta who are working on legislation to ban data centers in certain parts of town. The difference between data centers and fire stations, data centers is a non-stop sound. The whirring sound that comes out of a data center is from their air conditioning units that are used to cool all of the server systems, which is a massive drain on resources, utilities, electricity, water, and also you can hear it. So it literally sounds like you're standing next to an AC unit times 10 right outside of a building 24/7. In this instance with a fire station, to his point, the sounds are only going to be coming as they're coming in and out of the bay. And talking about in terms of first responders, they're all humans. It's not like they're coming out of the bay at 3 a.m. and be like, kick it boys, let's do it to 10 on the decibel meter. They're trying to get in and out of there as quickly as possible, so they're going to hit the lights and sirens more on the main thoroughfares, which you're already going to hear those from where you're living. I'm assuming if you are here, you probably live in the neighborhood, but just speaking from the perspective of data centers, that's a non-stop sound. OSHA typically does ratings. My other job, my real job, the one that pays my bills, this shockingly doesn't pay my bills, is also doing health and safety. OSHA does their ratings based off an 8-hour exposure rating, and that's what the data center concern is because you're hearing that whirring noise for more than 8 hours nonstop throughout the day. In this situation, it's situational sound, so it's coming and it's going. Does that help?
I understand that they're different. What I was more pointing to is this is kind of new research because data centers have provided that. People are starting to look into that. And it was because it was so extreme that they found such good data. Is it not possible that, not necessarily constant, but random loud noise could also cause that?
Yeah, so I think that was what they were trying to achieve. When he says it's not scientific, it's not IRB or International Review Board, or it's not necessarily statistically significant because that would require them going to places outside of the city of Roswell and having X number of fire stations. Looking at the fire stations within the city of Roswell, where we've used a decimeter in order to measure the sound, obviously your version of what's loud is going to be subjective compared to what my 8-year-old's version of loud is, which is according to him, he's not loud. That's a lie. He's loud 24/7. Here we're going to interpret it differently, but based off the decimeters of what they've measured, it's not going to be different than, say, living next to Holcomb Bridge Road, which is also going to have natural noise pollution. We have another fire station movement that we're looking at Station 23 on Bowen and 92. 92 as a whole has natural environmental sound. the sound at the fire station in that situation is not necessarily going to outweigh, based off their measurements, the sound Highway 92 already existing. With Holcomb Bridge Road here, it's going to be a fairly similar situation. Does that answer your question? Vanna, where'd you go?
We moved.
I guess my question is basically, you said not necessarily, as in we don't know. There aren't tests, right? If it comes to the point where it is, like, how does our community determine what is a significant impact to our health?
Your health shouldn't be impacted by the sound is what I'm saying. In terms of the OSHA standards, sound impacts your health, and chime in on this if you would like any EPW people in Port Park. You guys might have done sound training too, I'm not sure. Yeah, you also get to measure noise when it comes to events. It shouldn't be an impact on your health. Like I'm saying, that data centers do have an impact on health, specifically mental health, because it is a non-stop whirring sound. And I understand that you're like, well, this is a sound that comes and goes, and that can make me be on edge.
Well, my point is more that when those data centers were first built, they were OSHA compliant. And then once people started getting cancer and started killing themselves, then people were like, oh, we need to investigate this.
I get it. It's a non-stop sound. Yeah, so it's data centers, again. Way data center section, for those who don't understand, a data center is a massive server center. It's a building that maybe 4 people work in that holds a ton of servers. You need dozens of air conditioning units in order to cool that, to keep them from overheating so that they can service the area. It's literally like living inside of an AC unit. So I can understand how that would have impacts on health, but in terms of the fire station, it's not any different than a school bus passing your house. Unless lights and sirens are on, to which his point was it's very infrequent that you would necessarily have lights and sirens at all emergencies, especially when you guys are sleeping or late at night when traffic's down. Is that a fair answer?
Yeah, it's a fair. Thank you, Sharon. I couldn't articulate it that way in all fairness.
You said data centers, and I was like, I'm ready to talk about data centers.
Yeah, no, hot topic.
I know you have, where we have the microphone. Okay, we have a question up here.
My name is Ben Leahy, and I live in Parkside, which is on Fouts Road, just right over here. It doesn't make me a smart person that you should listen to, but just so you know where I'm coming from, I'm a recently retired professor of epidemiology and psychiatry from the University of Chicago. So in my work, I do know a little bit about how sudden sounds are much more harmful than unchanging sounds, especially sounds that are classically conditioned to danger, like a siren. But I want to talk about 2 things. Now, I'm coming from the perspective that firefighters are heroes. And I want to do everything I can to help firefighters protect all of us from fires. So I don't want anything that I say to be construed in any other way. But I want to make 2 points. First of all, on the science that Fire Chief Troche presented from the optimization analysis that was done sometime in 2024 or earlier, that says that the fire station should be moved to this general area. And then I want to talk about the specific proposal in East Roswell Park. So, because so many millions of dollars are involved, I would ask whoever the entity in the city is to have an independent reanalysis done. Those analyses of response time optimization are based on machine learning, which is like artificial intelligence. If you ask it a question, it will give you an answer, but it's not necessarily the right one. So because so much rides on it, I would want to have it independently validated. I would even want the gentleman who seemed like he knew what he was doing, I saw the tape of his presentation, redo his own analysis with up-to-date data, because that data is at least a year old. So to run that analysis, you have to have all the addresses of residences in Roswell, geocode them mathematically, and then run your data. And since he ran it and presented it in 2024 at the latest, it is at least data that's 1 year out of date. But he said in his presentation, and Fire Chief Troche repeated this, that he validated the results on actual response time from 2021. So making no guess as to whether it's going to change the result or not, those data are out of date enough that before you spend many millions of dollars to make decisions, I would like that analysis redone independent of the Roswell Fire Department. Second has to do with the proposed location in East Roswell Park. I woke up one morning not long ago to find a sign being put up 60 feet from my bedroom saying that your bond dollars at work, we're building a fire station in East Roswell Park. So this part of my talk is about the importance of protecting people from fire stations. And if I may, I didn't have access to your audio visual system. If you would take one and pass it around. I have an old-fashioned paper graphic. To conserve time, I'll talk while these are being distributed. This U-shaped object is the proposed fire station and proposed for East Roswell Park. Now, the optimization analysis says somewhere in this area we need to move Fire Station 27. And maybe that would be confirmed with up-to-date data. But it doesn't say it has to be East Roswell Park. There are times in our lives when the few have to suffer for the greater good. But the few who are going to suffer in this case shouldn't have to suffer this much, and the greater good isn't building a fire station in East Roswell Park. I'm sorry, I'm not speaking about that. So the folks, are people here from 12 Stones, I know they're concerned. People who live in Parkside, deeper into Parkside behind me are concerned because there's going to be an awful lot of unpredictable noise and unpredictable light and, more importantly, unpredictable traffic involving huge trucks on what is a small, quiet road and is our only access point in and out. The people who live on Fouts Road, directly on Fouts Road, have homes that are 20 to 30 feet from the edge of Fouts Road. Fouts Road is two 11-foot wide lanes, and then you hit the driveway to the fire station. I can't imagine, and I say this respectfully, I can't imagine that the people who said, oh, it'd be great to put it right there in East Roswell Park, went there and stood there to see that there are homes directly behind you. So if you look above the red rectangles, which are my attempt to put a ladder truck at scale, behind here you have 3 townhouses that are 20 feet from the edge of the road. The fire trucks are going to come out of the driveway. If they hit exactly the middle of the 11-foot wide, how wide is the fire truck? 8 feet? Okay, so 8 feet wide, you got great drivers, they're going to be right in the middle. So it's going to be 1.5 feet from the sidewalk that they're standing on. But if people went out there and saw how close the quarters are, how much it's going to impinge on the houses right on Fouts Road, they didn't turn around, knock on the door, and meet the people living there. To meet the children that are living there, up to people like, I'm in the senior citizen category, we have some of those right there. Those people are going to be impacted to a degree that's unconscionable if you put it in East Roswell Park. And I happen to believe that trees are usually better citizens of the planet than we are. They're going to tear down the most beautiful part of East Roswell Park that I see them, at least 100 people walk past and through every day. Build it in this area, but build it in East Roswell Park where it's currently proposed. This is an existential issue for those of us who live on Fouts Road. We cannot go along with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so before we move to the next, the doctor did bring up a couple of things that they're policy driven, so I can't answer those, but we talked about moving to the general area, right, Doc? And we also talked about the possibility of a third-party analysis of the data.
All right, so fun fact about the guy who did the analysis. Alex now works for a third-party analyzer who actually does that for a living now. So it wasn't AI, it wasn't computer generated. Alex, who provided this analysis originally that he just presented, has a master's in GIS, which is mapping systems. He's not just a fancy firefighter, although you're my favorite fancy firefighter in my heart. With the cool glasses. No, Alex, that's specifically what his degree program was in, is in GIS and doing data analysis. So his analysis was done by hand. In terms of the data and doing it 1 year later and if it's changed, this is where I come in. On the city planning side, we have not added any rooftops, generally speaking, to the city of Roswell within the last year since the data had been analyzed. We have, in terms of East Roswell Village that had been added in there, but that was already within the data set for what they would have in terms of the rooftops and what it's zoned for.
Is that the target location?
Yeah, that's, East Roswell Village is the target location. And it's also not going to generally change your heat map in terms of your call time and your response time, because you want that historically speaking, and there hasn't been enough people there for enough time to have those kind of response times be within your analysis. So in terms of doing a third-party analysis, that would be us, as a city, paying for somebody who has either comparable or less experience as Mr. Thames, who provided the analysis, to provide us with the same information that's already been analyzed. So I can understand that. And from Chief Troche's perspective of it being a policy decision as to why it was in East Roswell Park, I think that's a fair question. And I'm going to assume, by show of hands, how many people here have the same question? Why East Roswell Park? Oh my gosh, man, if I were betting out, that would have been a good one. I understand, because you live probably right here. You live walking distance to, you can throw a rock at the fire station. Literally, a stone's throw to the fire station. I can understand why that would be your number one question. Beyond the data analysis and indicating why it should be there, I've had people ask why not the old Rite Aid location, where the Moe's is, and Petco and things like that. When I was running for office in 2022, which is the exact same ballot that this bond was on that authorized us to reinvest in our fire department and be able to build additional fire stations, I knocked on 4,200 doors with my campaign, majority of which were in East Roswell. The number one concern of folks in East Roswell was commercial development. Folks here felt like they didn't have enough third spaces, they didn't have enough places to go, and that most economic development in Roswell had been stale for quite some time and wanted more places to go. Mixed-use places, stores, retail, you name it, but not more housing. If we were to take the Rite Aid offline, the Petco, the Moe's, that would reduce the percentage of commercial frontage in East Roswell significantly. Specifically one that is on Holcomb Bridge next to a high school. That is really where most developers would be targeting for types of redevelopment. That means that we as a city would be making the policy decision to take that parcel offline, to put a fire station there. means we have to reinvest in buying the real estate, which is an additional cost to you as a taxpayer. It means that you're taking off the potential for that to be tax generating, which hopefully will become a better use than it is now, which is an empty Rite Aid. I know that it's currently targeted for redevelopment. It's also been included in our TAD, which I will commend Councilmember Sells for leading. Being able to include it within our tax allocation district means, again, we can revitalize the area. You can only take income from a TAD if it is tax generating, TAD being a tax allocation district. We can't tax city property. So if we take that commercial property, which is one of the very few areas you have here in East Roswell that is commercially zoned, and make it city property, that is taking it offline for future development or future use for y'all. I say y'all because you can walk there. I will admittedly say I don't live in this side of town, Councilmember Sells does. And then furthermore, we already own the property in East Roswell Park. And I understand the concern of like, well, that's our park space. This is the area that we would already be using. It's an area that is not programmed. I've seen a rumor so far that it would impact the dog park. Y'all, why would we put millions of dollars into a brand new dog park just to be like, just kidding, we're taking it away. We're gonna put a fire station there. It's been a part of the long-term plan. The bond plan that was passed in 2022, we revitalized it and put in the bond program for the new dog park, new fields, one of the new fields that's already been ribbon cutted online. We have, Taylor help me out, we still have future projects in the works for East Roswell Park that are currently being programmed. But the area that's currently used, the only part of it that would be programmed is scooting over a disc golf hole. I don't play disc golf. What do you?
Three holes.
It is
Three holes.
Three holes from the disc golf. It doesn't mean removing them. It doesn't mean we're taking away disc golf. It doesn't mean no more disc golf. It means moving them to another location within the park. I understand the frustration, but again, it was the most fiscally responsible. It's a way of being able to preserve commercial space as well for you guys here in East Roswell to be able to program that, to be able to generate more taxes as opposed to putting more weight onto the taxes. That was why the policy decision was made. Do you have any other things to contribute?
Yeah.
Just a couple things. One is, you know, when we did the bond, when we all voted for the bond, in particular for public safety, the cost of this stuff has gone up significantly since we've done that. And we've been working very, very hard to make sure that we are living within our means. And so, for instance, instead of building a new police and fire headquarters, we bought an existing office building and we're repurposing that. And it was a huge, huge savings. And also, we're moving it to the east side, and particularly to the worst crime zone in Roswell, right there. So we're being very, very thoughtful about these things. And I realize, listen, I would say that the number of housetops probably hasn't changed more than 1% since 2021 even. So I don't think that there's been an enormous amount of change in that. And as Sarah's much better, one of the things I liked about serving on this board and this council is we all sort of have our lanes, and we trust each other, we get along really well. And so Sarah she was police and fire and still is very, very involved in that. My jam is economics. I'm a finance guy. David Johnson was transportation. So we all sort of have our lanes. But we have tried very, very hard to work together to make sure that we kept our tax base low, that we maximize the economic value of the property that we have that's commercial. And in particular, my heart has been specifically, we have a lot of gray fields in East Roswell that we are working very, very hard to change. Very, very hard to change. And so that's the thinking that went into this. I would like one of you, I suppose this issue about the street width, I mean, if you look at the data that these guys went through and the way that they've approached this, we're doing the same thing in the economic development side as well. The road paving and things like that, those things have also been turned into data questions instead of just spitballing. So I'm sure that there was consideration of that with respect. All right, so I'll give it to you about the road specifically, anything else that you want.
So I'm Sharon, Izzo. I'm Deputy City Administrator for Infrastructure. So our responsibility is the large construction projects, the engineering behind it, the ultimate construction. And what I can share is that the layout that you provided was one of the early concepts, so you are correct. And we're still working through the design process, so it's not entirely current. And one of the things that we looked at was how to integrate the fire station into the park and to basically put those uses together. So the 3 disc golf holes are going to be redesigned once the fire station is complete. And we also understand that there was some concern about providing pedestrian connectivity along Fouts, and so that is also a part of the plan. We had an opportunity to meet with the president of the HOA, I see you here from 12 Stone, and he had indicated to us that there was a desire to put in some crosswalks to allow the folks from that side of the street to be able to cross safely to access the park, the dog park, ultimately down to the library that's on the corner. This is actually just such a treasure trove of wonderful community uses for all of you. So that was a great bit of input that we got from him, so that's something we're planning on including. And like we have said, we are working through the design process and hope to get into construction next year. Obviously, the council will have an opportunity to look at the final design and approve that as it goes out to bid. So hopefully that answers that question. Okay.
She's got one.
She's got one. She's my one.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You're good.
And I have 10 questions, but I'm not going to ask them all, but I am going to send them louder. I have 10 questions. I'm not going to ask them all, but I am going to send them in. So, the main questions that I have to do with the selection process, and most especially the notification process. And I'm just going to say this.
There you go.
I'm going to say this, if you can put that sign up there saying we're building it, you could have put that sign up there saying we're looking at this location. So that we had time to talk about it and look at what some alternatives are. And at that time, the alternative might have been the Rite Aid. That's going to be, I mean, I know Eagles Nest has bought that, but my understanding is that's still mixed use. That's not primarily church, like Bridge to Grace. That's my understanding. There's also land behind, right off of Steeplechase. There's a whole undeveloped area behind the storage, pool supply, and car wash back there that has access to Steeplechase and a light. And it's buffered by commercial, and it's buffered from residential. You're putting a fire station entrance right across the street from a school bus stop, and I don't think that's a good idea. And I don't know if any of you who were making the decision have ever driven here in rush hour traffic or on the weekend when all of the kids' soccer games and baseball games are going on, and you've seen the traffic that comes out on Fouts and took that into the planning. And I also want to meet whoever's driving that big ladder truck that's going to make that right turn and make that corner when all 3 lanes of Holcomb Bridge are full of traffic and don't have any place to go. I just think this was very poorly selected, and I think the process left us as citizens who own that park really out of the process. And we're not the only ones that use it, the people that live here. It gets a lot of use. And I just don't think we were given a fair hearing whatsoever. So my second point I'm going to make, and then I'm handing it off, my question I'd like to know now is why is the current location significantly larger than the existing location? And what are the plans for the existing location as far as the land, the furniture, the fixtures, the equipment, and the building? What's going to be done with that?
Okay, so great question. Sarah, I might as well leave the mic with you. Thank you for making this easy on me. Let me talk about the equipment though. The plan, according to the analysis that we did, is no question that there's going to be a ladder truck and an engine. So as far as apparatus and staffing, that all goes to the new station location. But I'm pretty sure that's not what you're asking. You're asking the other stuff. So I'm going to let you have this mic.
Joke's on you, I have a song and dance number. No, those are all excellent questions. I think it's a misnomer that we don't spend time here. I spend a lot of time in this park. As mentioned, you raised your kids here, you graduated, you survived, I'm still in the thick of it. I will be, if you want to come talk to me again, I'll be here tomorrow during the 8-year-olds basketball game at 6:30. The Hawks are playing, not the Atlanta Hawks, the 8-year-old Hawks. They're significantly less talented. Specifically, my very uncoordinated child. I'm here all the time. I played softball in this park since I was 9 years old. I grew up here in Roswell. I played literally on these fields right here. I still have kids who attend this park. They had summer camps in this park. We use the park. I've also offered conversation topic, spent time on that corner that you're talking about, waving signs to campaign for myself when I was running against this gentleman, and we got to awkwardly stand with each other watching rush hour traffic, running against one another.
And Robicheaux hot chocolate.
Yes, it was enjoyable and cold, but you get to watch a lot of traffic patterns when you stand on a street corner waving signs and having people honk at you for a variety of reasons. It's not to say that we haven't spent time over here, it's not to say that we haven't done the data analysis over here, but I get the frustration of why my neighborhood, why my backyard, why is it at the park? As I mentioned before, it's not taking any programming offline. I understand the concerns about having children in the area as well. That's why we're trying to have pedestrian improvements, not only with the crosswalks, but having an area where children can actually access the park in a safer way as well through sidewalks, which is wild to me that hasn't been an investment before. As for if the Rite Aid would have been an option, you're correct, the Rite Aid is zoned mixed use. The church is zoned for civic. Civic is for the same thing that the fire station would be zoned for.
That's not.
The Eagles Nest, they're keeping it as mixed use. They're not going to seek a rezone. So in that case, then it will still generate tax revenue. Whether or not we looked at it before or after, it does not change whether or not the mixed use in the area for the Rite Aid, because it's not going to be programmed as a church. It's going to be theoretically redeveloped, but will be tax generating. It's not going to change that as an outcome, as opposed to the land where the fire station would be, which is city property, which is park property, which is zoned civic use. So I understand the concerns there. It would also still require us to acquire said property. Anything on Holcomb Bridge with frontage is not cheap these days. If anybody's moved recently, nothing is cheap these days, but specifically commercial property with frontage on Holcomb Bridge Road. So it would have been a significant cost. And to answer your question about the size, why is it a significantly larger footprint? When the fire station, original Fire Station 27 was built, literally on the tail of Roswell, we had at the time a part-time fire department. Might have been even while we were volunteer. Was it still a volunteer at the time?
Yes, volunteer.
So yeah, it was a volunteer fire department. Now it is a full-time fire department. We're in the process of transitioning. We're halfway through that transition process. The reason why it is slightly larger is because you have firefighters who sleep there overnight. They have bunk rooms, they have beds, they use that area. Some of our oldest fire stations, so for example, Station 22, those fires literally sleep in what looks like a cubicle at work. It has a partition and a cot, and that's where they sleep in order to serve us on Roswell to keep us safe. So it's to be able to provide them with more accommodations. It's also an additional bay size. So what does that mean? It's an additional garage door that goes on the fire station itself, which allows us to have additional service trucks within the area, with the understanding that we're not planning for the Roswell right now. We're planning for Roswell 10, 15 years from now, 20 years from now.
But why do you need this detention pond and this?
The detention pond's already there. Yeah, so the detention pond's already there. Why do we need the detention pond is the question. So that's already slated for use, correct?
It's not there. There's no pond.
There's a small pond there, but we have to deal with stormwater, so we have to.
I'm gonna give this to the engineer.
Mr. Stormwater.
There you go.
So I'm Brian Watson, I'm Director of Environmental Public Works. So there is a pond there right now. It is small, but we need to increase it to deal with the stormwater that will come off of the project.
There's no pond there.
There's no pond there. There is a small embankment that is down there because we're actually trying to use that to see if we can minimize the stormwater pond that we would actually have to.
There's a slope. I mean, there's two ponds in the park, and there's a slope going down there, but where the plan shows a pond, there's a pond.
Yeah, if it's.
Double plan.
Are you talking about this one?
Yes.
Yeah, this is an older design, so.
Yeah, but the current plan, the double pad that shows the pond retention pond, right along Fouts Road.
That's
Just to the
correct.
south.
Yes, sir. The gentleman who's holding up that over there, that is,
On the other side.
No, there's a giant pond right here that y'all are building.
that's correct.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, it's already in the works, though,
Right,
correct?
so you're saying there's one there, but there's not.
That's because they're gonna
Sorry,
cut down
there's-
trees
They're gonna cut all the
and
trees.
pave
Well, add impervious
and
surface.
the water is gonna have to run off the pavement
In process.
into the pond, taking up more of our park space.
So that requires more land.
Did y'all look at underground detention instead of a detention pond?
We did look at underground detention, that is correct.
And why was that not used?
Cost.
Okay.
Okay, so we can't spend money on the land.
And what about Seven Branches? Roswell owns Seven
Yeah.
Branches, correct?
Yeah,
That is correct.
That's right along Holcomb Bridge, that would not be anywhere close to residential properties?
Mark's Lane.
Yeah, so
Woodfield.
had the question related to fire station.
Are you talking about
47.
placing
Would
it?
that not be a better spot for a fire station? That's-
So the question is, why we didn't use Seven Branches as placement instead for the fire station? So, to the gentleman's point here about having concerns about environmental issues, Seven Branches right now is for future park space. And I mean that in terms of not only green space, but it's currently a walking trail. You would be taking down significant numbers of trees in order to put it at Seven Branches and do
But
other
I'm sure
purposes.
it's specimen trees.
What was that?
It would not be for sure specimen trees that would be taken down here.
And this one, do we have the count of specimen trees, Sharon and Brian?
Yep.
Sharon's gonna give you the specimen trees for this one.
Also, that's down future park space.
There's
And no one uses that at all.
Part of the design process is to do a tree inventory. There are 221 trees that are going to be impacted, and of those, 21 of those are specimen, which means they're of a certain age and size. And then there'll be a landscaping plan where we'll replace more than the specimen trees that are being taken down.
How long will it take for them to get that big?
The 21 trees?
No.
A tree.
A tree
Any
to a specimen.
200
To
trees.
a specimen.
foliage
No,
overhead.
hold on, do you want me to take that? Sure.
So to clarify, it's 220 trees, 21 of which are specimen. Specimen trees are the ones that are going to be the larger sized trees that have been mature over a certain amount of time. So how long would it take for 21 trees to be able to reach the level of maturity is the question?
No, you're removing all of the trees and all of their foliage that's helping prevent the world from blowing up from climate change and heat, but you're saving 21. So how long is it going to
No,
take?
we're not saving 20.
They're not saving them.
We're 221 trees, 10% of which are mature full trees that you're talking about. The other ones are smaller sized trees, they're the sticks in the ground that look like a twig with 4 branches, they are invasive species, so of those, 21 are high quality foliage trees that you're talking about. How long would it take for them to reach that level of maturity? It depends on the tree and what we replace them with. The goal for our end is to be able to replace them with native species, so it depends on what size trees that we use. I have
One question, it's super, okay, so you.
I'm gonna love you.
No,
I hear that you have one question, but we've already taken a question from you, and I want to make sure that other audience members are heard as
It's so
well.
quick.
Go for it.
I just want to say I can't think of a more inappropriate location for this fire station than in East Roswell Park. I live off of East Road, I walk to that park all the time. And for the beauty of the natural environment, for the wooded areas, not out playing soccer. This fire station is right next to a trail that is part of the loop that goes through the beautiful wooded areas. It's used by the disco golf people, extremely popular. It's right next to this luxury dog park we now have, which I'm sure the dogs are going to love to hear screaming sirens during the day. And it's immediately adjacent to East Roswell Library. How can you think of a less appropriate location? I mean, it just boggles the mind. And to say, it's going to cost us money if we have to buy a parcel of land. Well, this administration has wasted hundreds, if not, millions of dollars for boondoggle projects and expensive consultants, which they throw multi-million-dollar contracts to. But we can't afford to buy the Rite Aid site, and that small amount of revenue that would have been generated, tax revenue by that Rite Aid site, is worth destroying a huge portion of the park and the enjoyment of people who are using the park, I say no. I vote for Rite Aid.
Here. So conversely, in terms of it being a poor location, again, I just say this strictly speaking for myself and not from on the policy perspective. I don't say this on behalf of staff. I don't even speak for Councilmember Sells, who is sitting here. I would argue it's actually the perfect location. The number one reason for calls for our fire department, it's not fires, it's not car accidents, it's for health and medical reasons. When you're in a park, you're far more likely to have a heart attack or break something, and that's where we get many of our call-outs here in Roswell, specifically in our park spaces. So arguably having somebody far closer in those situations is much safer.
So destroy the park to be able to...
It's 6 acres out of Taylor, hit me. How many acres is this park?
40.
Yeah, but most of that's not
Because you
bad.
don't use it, doesn't mean that we don't.
I literally just said I'll be here tomorrow, see you at 6:30.
Okay, we don't use that, obviously.
In terms of the trail space, I understand that there's people who use trail space. I love the fact that contextually, like, for example, you're talking about this administration has used money. This is bond dollars that was approved by voters. This was a part of the bond roadshow that we went, I say we, I wasn't even part of it. Before Councilmember Sells nor myself were on council, was actually pitched here, and that was the same data that was provided that indicated that there was very likely going to be a fire station placed within this general area. So,
But not our.
I
No,
have a
I'm
practical
saying data
question.
analysis.
Genuinely.
The public about the location of it until it was done.
so the concern largely is that you wanted to have input from it. So if I were to offer a converse, say we put it at Rite Aid, do you think the folks who live at the townhomes and the houses will probably have a similar perspective?
They are always here.
Well, you should care about that too.
They're just as close on the other side.
So you've data analyzed our suffering, you've determined what the tolerable amount is. Do we have any means of actually inputting that for ourselves of what the actual suffering is? You've run some analysis, you've told us this is enough suffering for you. Is there anything we say you're gonna change what the spreadsheet says?
I'm not quite sure what you mean by the suffering. I understand the concerns from the residents of wanting us to analyze other locations.
I mean, deficits, health decline, noise pollution.
Loss of park space.
Loss of home value because you live in front of a fire station.
There's actually
several
statistically no data about slipping home values from fire stations. There's statistical data that would include that you would actually have better home insurance prices living closer to a fire station.
Statistics are like on average, like we are individuals. Does it not matter at all any of our individual experiences? If we both have PTSD and we have to leave, which is true by the way, because we are very triggered by loud noises like that, I understand that that doesn't mean a community can't have fire stations, but are you telling me there is no qualitative, no personal data? You're just running this on just how you survey respondents from 10 years ago? Like what?
I don't know that there was any surveys from 10 years ago.
That is an example. My
My
practical question is how do we as like members of the Roswell community like end up meaningfully like reporting our situations, our struggles? Obviously this is not going to change where you're putting it. Like, do we write to someone? I'm asking very practically, if I have an issue with this, where do I write an email? Is this like, get the email of the people in here?
It's not a matter of the email of the people. I mean, you have 2 elected officials, 1 future elected official, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 staff members who are currently listening to you right now. So it's not a matter of this is set in stone and we're trying to tell you this is exactly what's happening. I'm here to answer your questions. Councilmember Sells is here to answer questions. I know staff's here to answer your questions.
All right, my question is this set in stone, is it definitely?
We have people wait.
Or are you open to moving it?
I will come back to you, I promise. Guys, I just want to be respectful of those as we're going around with microphones, especially if you've already had a chance to speak. Can we please let the others have a turn? Go for it. Yeah.
Hello, Laura Postel, moved here in '99. I'm in Woodfield, right by the park. This park is minuscule compared to the Roswell area park. So chipping away at the little space that we have here, not appreciated. Plus, I have a solution for you. There is a Pizza Hut what possibly T-Mobile location across the new traffic light from Chick-fil-A. It's an empty building. The infrastructure is already there. There's a huge parking lot. So you can add on to the building that already exists. There's really nothing in that corner. Business doesn't take in that corner. But in that site, the fire station
Where are you
has
talking
access to that light
Where are you talking about?
across the street from Chick-fil-A on Holcomb Bridge.
Johns Creek?
The new light, no, it's on this side.
Yes, it's
in
John
the-
Street across the street.
Okay.
it's
The
in-
problem we have
It's
with
in the plaza with Goodwill.
Here,
It is.
I understand the concern, so the recommendation is the Pizza Hut across from the Chick-fil-A, understanding too Chick-fil-A is technically City of Johns Creek. That still places us in the exact same bind that we're in now. So in terms of
Put
placement,
the map back.
No, it wouldn't.
so
Put the
here,
map back up of
the
where.
reason why I say it puts us in a similar bind, can you give me a data analysis? Chad's got it. Okay. I'm tall. Is this a laser pointer? Is this laser pointer?
It accesses Nesbit Ferry very well and that whole pink
So
area.
it's further down this way,
No, it's all the way.
No.
all the way down.
No,
Right, okay, so if we're talking about right here,
That's it.
which is roughly where it is, when you talk about the service, yeah, it's all over.
it's on this south, you're on the north.
It's right. That's where John Street
Yeah,
starts.
this is where Chick-fil-A is, because that's where Johns Creek cuts out. So it's here.
It's
So when
on
you're talking about the
south side.
analysis of the fire station, the area that it services, you treat it like a circle. So this is a point, this is the service area. You're taking, again, the same problem we have with our current placement of 27, and you're taking half of that circle offline because it's literally on the edge of Johns Creek, which is already serviced by Johns Creek FD. And in this case, you're taking off all of Gwinnett County, which we don't even service at all.
And not only that, Sarah, that whole area is, much of that's agriculture and the river and parks. There's no,
He lives literally next to it.
I live basically next to that existing fire station. I'm probably, maybe, what would you guess, 500 yards from that fire station. So I'm farther than certainly you are. But it is visible from our house, it's basically. If we were tall enough, you could see it, over the trees. But there's no, other than our neighborhood, which is not very dense, and the park, which is Girard Park, and then the Girard property, which is where the driving range is, and the Girard property on the other side, which is agricultural. There is 3 houses all the way till you get to Allard and Barnville. There are literally 3 houses. The Girards, 2 houses on one side and 1 on the other side, and that's it as far as houses are concerned.
And to clarify too, about this being a minuscule park, it's 76 acres?
72.
72 acres, which is the second largest?
Well, she referenced Roswell Area Park, that's 81 acres. Lita Thompson has more acres.
Right, but Lita Thompson's not programmed, it's all walking trails.
Yes, as far as the program part.
In terms of a program park, it's the second largest program park, and it's, how many acres did you say difference between this and that?
It's about 9 to 10.
So 9, 10 to 10 acres difference. So I understand the concern of feeling like you're losing acreage, but it's not programmed acres. I understand that there's trails that are used, the trails be redirected, you still will have wooded walking trails.
Where? There's nothing practically.
So giving the feedback to Rec and Parks and city staff, I would recommend as a policy directive with the understanding that we're about to have an incoming class of newly elected officials who might have completely different perspectives. But in terms of the fact that we have not nailed down final specs, can we make sure that the walking trails, we obviously have already accounted for the disc golf holes. Can we make sure that the trails is also prioritized, the minimization of tree impact? And then is there a way too that we can try to emphasize any landscape buffers too?
And access to 7 branches. I mean, 7 branches is a phenomenal walking area, no doubt about it. It's just hard to get to. I would love to see that improve. The entrance to 7 branches and the access to 7 branches.
So to your point too about, somebody had asked why we couldn't build it at 7 branches. It is literally a swamp. That would actually be impacted wetlands if we tried to put impervious
7
surface
branches
there.
of 7 creeks, that's what the 7 branches come.
Yeah, 7 branches, yeah, so it's water.
But not at the corner of East Road and Holcomb Bridge.
But because of the location of the impervious surface, you would actually have much larger impacts, and the topography is almost a straight drop down the back of that.
Then Rite Aid makes the most sense. Rite Aid.
Girl, I love the Rite Aid property, but I also want to be able to use it. I hear you in terms of the concerns of, well, why can't we use an existing property? Why is it just a concern of cost? It's not just a concern of cost. Here in East Roswell, anything going, ma'am,
I'm not a girl.
ma'am, anything going from East Roswell all the way over from, especially Old Alabama, but especially from 400. 400 going over, you have only the frontage on Holcomb Bridge Road is the only commercial property that you have in East Roswell. Specifically, the only thing you can develop for mixed use, the only thing you can develop for third spaces, the only thing that you can develop for any sort of retail or places to be that's not someone's house.
Rite Aid's just a small portion of that site.
It's a small portion that would take off the entire frontage if you wanted to do a mixed use redevelopment there.
Well, I mean, there were other stores back there.
Ma'am in the back with the, hold on one second. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. He'd already given the microphone. I will come to you next.
Yeah, I mean, my question is, from a lot of the surveys that you've done of people from East Roswell, as well as all of Roswell, they have said they want park space. They want space for outside. All the surveys, none of them said anything about we want to see more commercial frontage. I think when you did your surveys, that was likely they were upset with the empty commercial frontage that we have.
I was going to say that was actually the feedback in the Iraq survey was that they did want more mixed use spaces.
Well, no, we wanted the mixed use spaces that are empty to be filled in East Roswell. That's the concern. We don't want more mixed use spaces. We want more parkland. That's what was said in all of those surveys. They want more parkland. We don't want to take away parkland. You tried to put a fire station at Big Creek Park as well before the tennis courts. And people came out saying, save the parkland. We want more parks. We don't want you putting things in the parks. Just like East Roswell Park, we first had the library, and that took out frisbee golf holes. We moved. Then we put in the road to get the tennis courts. More frisbee golf holes moved. And when's it going to stop? You mentioned that you have more plans for East Roswell Park. I mean, are we just going to do away with the frisbee golf course?
No, not at all.
But also it has to be
Yes.
a good frisbee golf course for people to come to East Roswell to play, to spend money at From the Earth and the other restaurants around East Roswell Park. If we want more people coming to East Roswell, we need to support our park systems as well. We can't just be one-sided with it. And finding a site taking away parkland is the wrong thing.
I'm going to assume that you are involved in disc golf group.
No, I'm not actually. I just play.
Okay, so you're just a player
East
then.
Roswell, and I play frisbee golf. I'm out in every single park, walking, hiking, biking, doing everything.
Got it. So I think that's something too that we could probably take into consideration as well to make sure that there's no quality trade-off either. Because to your point, relocating the three holes, your concern too is if it would have a negative impact in the quality of the gameplay or programming.
The frisbee golf people have done a great job with redesigning and putting money into it. And I believe that's all volunteers and donations for the frisbee golf. Has the city put any money into the frisbee golf course? Not since we went in the ground. So it's all volunteers, people that love the sport that come to East Roswell and put their time, effort, money into the park, donating that to the city, for the city to take it out and put it in the park. When there's other options, and the city has said, hey, we're going to vote for the parks bond as well, at the same time as I believe the bond for the fire safety.
Yeah, so they're all, it's three separate bonds, but yes.
All at the same time.
Yes.
They obviously want parks as well. So to pay bond money for the fire station to go and take away parkland is counterintuitive.
So you're saying that in terms of the trade-off, that you not only supported the public safety, but you also supported the parks.
Exactly. So don't take away parkland. We're paying extra money for both fire stations as well as parks. So to take away the parkland is silly. We're paying all this extra money in taxes. We want it to be built somewhere like Rite Aid, wherever it works, but not parkland.
Mark, I'm going to see that. So one second, I have the lady in the back of the green sweater, and then I will come to you in the blue shirt. Hold on 1 second. Oh, I'm so sorry.
He's been waiting.
Okay.
He's next, and then.
Okay. Go ahead, sir. Best.
Yeah, first of all, I don't think anyone said it. Thank you for your service. Hard, thank you. I actually have a question for the chief.
Don't make it hard one.
Very unscientific, quick Google map of all the other fire stations you have in Roswell. Do any of them have bays that directly face the front door, front windows of a home?
That's a great question.
And if
So-
if there's one, I bet it's not 4 homes.
So,
Station 2.
I got the perfect person.
Does Station 2 face a neighborhood?
Not a neighborhood, literally the front door, front windows.
Yeah, I want to make sure that we answer your question correctly because I don't want to seem like we're being condescending. You're asking if my fire station is directly facing a home that's sitting in front of me, not a neighborhood that's in the front. Chief Wolf, to my understanding, the closest we can get to that, being specific, the bays are going out to a home, is station 26, but, let's be fair about it, are you familiar with 26 on Cox Road? Okay, it is, but to be fair, when you come out of the bays, are you talking about the back where it's facing the big home on the right?
No, directly on Cox Road, when you come out, there's two very large homes.
Thank you, Brookfield West, but,
And they're not Brookfield West technically, they're on Cox Road. They're two quite large homes, but to your point, you guys have about 30 to 40 foot setbacks off of yours, and then in this situation, they have further setbacks because it's larger acreage.
so, to provide clarity, because it's easy to answer a question, yes, and then there's other stuff leading to it. Question in the back.
Okay, so I'm a little new to the study of the fire departments. I pardon if this is like an ignorant question. Even though we have confirmation that it's going to East Roswell Park, where else are we looking? Is that the end of the list? Is it East Roswell Park or it's over? So where are the places that we've already identified as alternatives? Or are we trying to still just move forward with that, but also we've gone so far as having maps and ponds and everything else that at this point we can kind of look at each other as adults and say we're moving forward with East Roswell Park.
Okay, so to make sure I'm clear, because as you said, you want to know, are we looking at any additional areas or other areas?
No, I want to know exactly what parts you're looking at. So rather than the community saying, Rite Aid and this and that, like I want your list of where else you're looking at rather than us providing the solutions to whomever's job that is. And if there isn't a list, then why are we saying that it's not confirmed East Roswell Park? Because you have to have alternatives for that statement to be true.
So in terms of why is it not confirmed for East Roswell Park and what are the alternatives? Leading up to this point, starting in 2023, we did the data analysis. And I say this week, I was public safety liaison from early 2023 up until about mid this year. So about 2 years as public safety liaison, I represented police, fire, 911 on council as liaison. So I sat in on these discussions. This is also not Chief Troche, it is our former fire chief who is now a deputy city administrator, Dr. Joe Canino, who led that initiative in coordination with Daryl Connolly, who oversees economic development for the City of Roswell. That was when an analysis was done that was provided here tonight.
What year was that?
What was that?
What year was that?
It was end of 23 is when we started doing the data analysis. It was presented in 2024.
Thank you.
Yeah, and this was all done in a public meeting.
I think I'm just concerned with like current today, what are other options? Like no more fluff, what are other options? A, B, C.
Right, so I'm answering your question. In terms of, were there any other options that were analyzed? The analysis was already done up until this point.
No,
This is the
I'm not concerned what else was analyzed. I'm concerned what are our, if no other options exist anymore because they've been analyzed and removed as an option. If what's been analyzed has been removed off the option board, I'm less concerned about that. I want a sole answer of here are our 3 options. If the only option right now is still East Roswell Park, then this conversation is not exactly efficient for anybody. So the answer is, it is East Roswell Park, then, and we're moving forward with planning, and it's not permanent, because if you were to find something that would catastrophically change that, then fine. But I'm saying, if there's nothing else, then let us know that. Is there anything else that's on your board where you're also making plans like this for? No, right?
So that's a fun political nuance for you, and you're going to be equally frustrated with my answer, which is what I was trying to give you the timeline for. Previous administration, with previous leadership,
did the analysis, and the decision was made by the current elected officials to choose East Roswell Park, which is why the signage was in place. You wouldn't have signage in place if it weren't selected. We currently have the architect and the engineers doing the analysis work and doing the site work on it. The reason why it's not necessarily official, and again, this is the political nuance answer, you have an inbound mayor and 3 new elected leaders who technically still weigh in on the process. I am not going to answer on their behalf. I'm not going to give indication on their behalf. But ultimately, you have 4 new elected officials, which is the majority of your elected body. The current elected body, as voted, has indicated that this was the site that made the most fiscal and physical sense based off the data.
Basically, everything else has been evaluated and confirmed, even though it is past administration.
Correct.
That's not action. So that doesn't have to be that conversation.
Hold on, let her finish.
Doesn't that kind of defeat that conversation? If it's already that this is the best option and you just have to believe that this is the best option, then I'm sorry you didn't something.
Oh, yes, it can.
Oh, yes, it can.
Not her, her. I'm trying to convince her.
I'm for it. What are our other options? I want it moved as well. But I want us to have like other options. Like we're sitting here saying,
Righty. What about over here?
But why isn't like those have already been removed? It's from them. It's kind of a thing. Like how are you guys not coming
They can be unremoved. They can be unremoved.
Is that true?
Sure.
Can they be unremoved?
No one started anything.
No, not that I'm disagreeing with you. I'm team move it, but like if they've already qualified it as like not an option, like I just want other options. Like what are other options?
So I'm going to say, again, I am not privy to all of the information that the current administration made this decision on. What I can say is that I want to review that information also. What other sites were analyzed? I don't know. What was the economic impact? I understand that. I find it difficult to believe that this Rite Aid site, you mentioned a mixed-use site, I don't see that as a true mixed use. Going up there, it's a small portion of what Eagles Nest use. What I will commit to is, just cut my mic, see, they don't. Well, I've got a big enough mouth. So I personally, as your new mayor-elect, will commit to at least looking at this information, looking at the analysis of the other sites that were proposed, because I don't know, and as appropriate, releasing that information to you as to what was looked at, what were some of the issues with some of the sites. I think one of the sites that was mentioned by someone had to do with the slope. And again, I'm not the expert. I don't have the information either, unfortunately. I will in January. So that is what I will commit to before final moving forward. How much, we have to consider, and I'm being honest, how much money has already been spent, unfortunately, on this, but why was that decision made? I think that's your question. So I'm going to say before votes are taken on the final aspect, to me, I want to review it also. I know I'm not probably answering 100% and giving you the answer you want, that it's not going to be here, but right now that's, I think, hopefully an honest answer to say why was it decided here, I think is what we all want to know.
But the why doesn't change the facts of it. Like those.
Well, and they're going to disagree because the whys could change the facts, because we do have 4 new electeds going in to make the final vote on where this will happen.
And when's the final vote?
When is it?
Yeah.
I can't even tell you that.
She hasn't, so to clarify, she hasn't even taken office yet. Mary was elected a week ago, at runoff. She has not taken office, and the reason why I get that it seems like I'm trying to sidestep your answer, I cannot answer on behalf of an elected body that I have not worked with, that we have not discussed this with, because they have not taken office yet, they have not sworn their oaths. You do have 2 elected officials who are here. Again, this was on a ballot that predates both of us. It was on the bonds initiative that I was on, and it was a year before you took office, and by the time that Councilmember Sells had taken office, this was already well into effect. As best as we can. I cannot tell you whether or not the new elected body will commit.
I guess what I just heard, and maybe I'm misunderstanding, and I'm going to ask this question. What I just heard you say that in the bonds initiative, those of us that voted for the bonds voted for this to be here. East Roswell Park?
No,
We voted to move the fire station, right?
Move the fire station
Okay,
to this area.
I think that's, it wasn't the concept as it was
No.
said, that it's gonna be in East Roswell. Okay, I just want to make sure.
No.
It was going to.
That no one really discussed where it was gonna be, and they just said, here it is, and we didn't have a chance to put it earlier, but, we don't want more parking.
Perfect. Okay, so to summarize overall, the concern was that it wasn't preemptively discussed with the communities before it was placed. That's the frustration. Also the fact that the loss of park space for the 6 acres of the site beyond is also not something that was preemptively discussed with the community. And based off the indication of the bonds initiative, not only was it supported to move the fire station inward, but it was also supported to maximize the park space as well, or programming parks, correct?
That's my concern, just put it back.
Closeness
I just-
residences to the station, the closeness that is unconscionable. That's the biggest issue. I love the park, but that's even bigger.
Yes.
You cannot build a fire station.
I had a townhome in Midtown Atlanta, and across the street was the fire station.
That's a city, we're in the suburbs.
In the middle of the night, you would hear that. So
We're in the suburbs.
this is a problem for any jurisdiction. Well, I sat in this room with many of you, I'm sure, when the bond discussions were had. And the conversation in particular, and I remember those slides well, was the fact that the fire station where it currently sits was done for reasons that no one understands. Because it never, ever made any sense where it currently sits.
No one understands this.
It wasn't, whether it was the cheapness, whether it was somebody's favorite golf hole, I have no idea.
So that's the standard?
But that's why it's at 27 where it is today, and it doesn't work because there's no houses down there. It's closer to Peachtree Corners.
We agree
than
that
it is
one
to
doesn't work.
To the majority of Roswell residents. Do you mind?
Yes.
Would you like to talk?
I just don't understand what we're doing here.
We're talking about, look, we in this room, in this very room, the bond referendum presented some premises upon which we are currently executing, and this fire station is one of those. It was that we wanted a full-time fire department, that they needed places to work, keep their equipment, and sleep. That they needed to be placed scientifically as best as they could for the most coverage at the least amount of cost and disruption. So haven't we cut several fire stations out of the plan?
One fire station. Instead of doing an additional fire station, we're able to say we can maintain. That's
Right, okay. So what we're trying to do is to we are fitting a jigsaw puzzle together that includes all of your neighbors and not just those of you who unfortunately sit across the street from a fire station. I get that. I currently do as well. Okay, farther than you, I admit. But I sit across from the fire station and I hear them. When they take off, I hear them. And they're always going right. They never go left. They only go right. And guess what? As they go right down the way, until they get all the way to Nesbitt Ferry, Johns Creek is on their right. In other words, they're not even fully in Roswell as they go down the way. I mean, it's crazy. That was the worst possible sighting. And we talked about that in this room. And we as a body passed the bond to fix this problem. And this is part of that solution. So I understand the personal picadillos and problems and the issues that it causes. I'm not discounting that. But let's keep in mind that there was no nefarious intent here. We as a body...
I think there's greed as an intent.
Yes.
We as a body agreed that our fire solution was insufficient for a city the size of Roswell. It was, and you guys, somebody asked me just a moment ago, why didn't they leave it at the fire station across from Home Depot? I bet y'all's houses are bigger than that fire station.
I don't think we need a lecture on whether or not we think that moving the fire station to increase safety is what we're here about.
It is what we're here about.
No. We're here about the location, and the fact that you're misunderstanding that is very frustrating.
Thank you.
I'd like to understand the other options that have been considered, And if we cannot at that time have that information, because Mary is not in that position,
Let's go home.
then let's go home, and when you have that information presented to you.
Come back. Schedule another meeting, we'll be here.
City of Roswell, the opportunity to express an interest in, would we like to accept an additional addendum to spend money to protect our park space, which we've already said we would like to do.
So I'm going to be giving you a even more frustrating response for you. The reason why typically, and this isn't just Roswell, every single city in the United States of America is not going to be like, hey, by show of hands, do you guys want to go put this at the Rite Aid? Because the moment every single one of you raise your hands to the Rite Aid, that Rite Aid is going to double their value in terms of the sale cost. That's why we do something called closure. It's executive session. All of our real estate decisions are done in executive session because otherwise, that's when you can open up things to all of a sudden. My cousin, I don't have a cousin who lives here, who owns the Rite Aid, is like, hey Sarah, do you need some property over here? That's when you have issues with corruption, that's when you have issues with driving up cost, that's when you have issues with profiteering off of property. So all of that's typically done, unfortunately, outside of the public. We can solicit your feedback. We can hear your response if you don't want to hear. Heard, got it, understood. I understand the concern. Gentleman here said that he lives stone's throw away from the fire station. Obviously, that's a very real concern of having to live across the street from something that you intended it to be a park. Now the conditions could potentially change to a fire station. That's a considerable change to quality of life, and I understand that. But I understand your feedback on the process too, and I know it's frustrating to say, but that's unfortunately just not an option for us to just come to you guys and be like, is it A, B, C, or D? It's gonna have to be something that either we already own, or it would have to be something that we would go after in terms of offering, real estate offering to negotiate the price, otherwise it drives the cost up. So I get it. It is a closed door negotiation, and I get it. I know that it's frustrating. Yeah, no, I get it. I'm just trying to like put this as in layman's terms as possible, because before I was in this position too, that would have been my exact same recognition.
Sure, when park bonds are put forward in front of the citizens, it should be clear that that does not protect the space that currently exists for citizens.
Okay, that's good feedback.
Did you say it one more time?
She's saying that if it's on the ballot, that obviously the one side of the ballot was to invest in park space. The other side of the ballot, bucket B, was public safety. If it's going to be potentially part of the park space, that needed to be clarified, that it could impact the park space, correct?
My point earlier was simply that we were making a policy statement as a body that we don't have enough fire coverage. Sure. And so we have to work that out. And as Sarah rightly put it out, that's the hard part, right? But we as a group, whether it's buying parks or fixing parks, we pass those bonds, and I think we're executing those. This is part of that execution, and it is a trade-off among limited alternatives, limited in dollars, limited in space, and that's what we've been trying to do. And I would say that the data that these guys use, look, I haven't been around a lot of fire questions like this, but I have been around a lot of business and financial questions. This was well and deeply vetted in terms of the issues that we're talking about here. Time, response, all those things. So I understand, but it wasn't capricious and it wasn't intended to harm. It was part of the execution of a policy that we agreed to.
Out of respect for everyone, I'm sorry to jump in here, respectfully jump in. I want to be respectful to everybody's time, the staff, the community. We have a microphone in the back. If we can, I want to open it up for another question out of respect for everyone because we've gone over, and then I want to bring us to closure with a couple of comments. So if you could, with your question.
I just had a brief comment on what Mr. Sell said about this. It was decided to be the park because of a cost analysis. Well, you know, budgets are statements of values and priorities. And obviously the park is not a priority for this administration. And you don't value the park. And that's what putting in the park says to me. As
We have bought an enormous amount of acreage of parks in this administration.
I don't want to hear about the other ones. I'm talking about East Roswell Park. I mean, people walk these trails all the time. to walk with friends, to enjoy nature, hear the birds, see the wildlife, and enjoy, shade with tree canopy. That's
You
something that's going to
clearly
be
said it's more important than East Roswell Park. You clearly said, like, that's what the bottom line is, that this fire station is more important than than the space allocated to
And
East
I'm not
Roswell
saying
Park.
not for a new fire station, in the appropriate location. In the appropriate location, without having to hugely negatively impact a park that has already had a lot of tree loss recently because of the expanded dog park. And by the way, some of the trees, in fact, almost all the trees that were planted as replacement trees down the line, they're all dead.
Right.
And some of them are uprooted. I mean, it was a total waste of taxpayer money. And I've heard there's also dead trees around the retention pond areas that were planted by the contractor, the Parks Department. So you talk about, when this Parks Department talks about planting new trees anywhere, I have to laugh because they couldn't even keep the 15 trees alive. No one watered them. They were planted in the heat of summer. It was a joke. It was just like money down the drain.
I understand your frustration. I just want to, in the interest of time, I'm going to stick around. Councilmember Sells will likely stick around as well. Mayor-elect Mary Robicheaux, I'm not going to volunteer. Mary Robicheaux will also be here as well. So I'm here to answer any questions, but I also realized too that you guys are being held hostage in a room at 7:45 at night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for
Really
taking
quick,
the
very
time.
respectful to everyone. To close this out, number one, I couldn't be more honored to be a fire chief for such an amazing community to come together, hold their decorum, and have this type of discussion. I appreciate the room's commentary when it comes to the fact that you understand the importance of us protecting you. I also understand that there's a lot of concerns. Okay, it's still on. In closure, basically what I got, please correct me if I'm wrong, is you want to be heard. A lot of commentary has been made. Please understand that very strategically and purposefully we have mayor-elect in the room, as well as current council members and staff. So know that you have been heard. So much appreciate the fact that you came here tonight, took your time. That in itself speaks for how passionate you are about it. As the fire chief, I make myself available for any phone calls. Obviously, the questions aren't geared towards me that much, but just know that our number one priority is to protect you, and I really appreciate the fact that I think the room understands that our heart's in the right place. We want to take care of you.
Thank you.
We lose sleep.
We're gonna issues, but I would ask all of us to thank our first responders.
Thank you. Have an amazing night, and you're sticking around.
Yep, I'm here.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. First ever